Hey guys, Pretzelman945 here, coming back to you with the first of 3 videos I'm going to make tonight. This one is a pretty fun one. This is ranking every Star Wars movie and TV show. I thought I was inspired to do this by a YouTube video. I forget the name of the YouTuber, but shout out to them for coming with the idea. At number 14 is episode 2. Now, most people probably expected this, but I'm going to basically sum it. If you want to know why I really don't like the movie, check out my top 10 worst movies list to find out more about that. And also other movies I really don't like. I'll just sum it up really quickly. Terrible dialogue, cheesy, cringy romance, terrible action, terrible acting, and way too much CG. Okay, moving on to number 13 is episode 1. Now, there's a significant jump, and that's about here. This is episode 2, this is episode 1. And I'm not saying by any means it's a bad movie, but it's definitely, I feel like, one of the much weaker Star Wars films because it does do some cool things, and I really do love the Darth Maul fight, and that's honestly the best part of the film. The other part is just the way that Sidious's plan unfolds, I feel like, because you kind of see that grand arc of that throughout all the prequel movies, which I really like. However, between the Senate debating, the obnoxiousness of the Neimoidians and the Gungans and Jar Jar Binks' existence, I really have to say this film is unfortunately pretty weak. Though I will say, the music in this is top notch, as is with every Star Wars movie. And number 12 is Solo, A Star Wars Story. Now, here, and from here on out, we see this jump here, Phantom Menace to Solo, Star Wars Story. Because from this point on, this is what I call a solid movie. Or an okay movie with a lot of solid things in it. So, for one thing, I think that I forget his name, but the new actor that plays Han Solo does a great job of doing it, and it's nice to see. I'm pretty sure Peter Mayhew did reprise his role for this movie. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he did. So, and it's also a really fun movie. It has a lot of really funny and pretty touching moments. And I think that one of the best things is honestly how Han and Chewie's relationship develops throughout the course of the film. And there's also some really interesting side characters, as well as some pretty pointless side characters. I will say the absolutely worst thing about this movie is the Darth Maul reveal, because I think that led to a lot of continuity errors, personally, and I really don't think it was necessary. I think it was kind of shown in as a last-minute bit of fan service, especially because the way that Darth Maul looks really wrong for some reason. I don't know. But, like, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars TV show, then none of that makes sense at all. So, I got a fault in there, but otherwise it's a very solid movie. And number 11 is Revenge of the Sith. This is a movie with some good things and also some bad things. Of course, starting with the bad things, we really have this continual thing of just how bad the romantic dialogue is. And also, I've never really bought Anakin's turn to the dark side, or I've never found it to be that convincing, to be completely honest. But that's not to say that there aren't some good things about this film, because there are a lot of great things about this film too. For one, Order 66 is possibly one of the most just heart-jerking moments in Star Wars, like in all of the movies. So I really have to applaud George Lucas for the amount of emotion that the creators of the movie were able to make in that one scene, just between the sad orchestral music, and execute Order 66. Sorry for the terrible Palpatine impression. But and then of course there's the Battle of Heroes, which is possibly one of the coolest fight sequences in Star Wars, even if it does look a bit messy. That's just my personal opinion. I've always found this fight scene to look a little bit messy. Just in the way the choreography, but it's still really, really cool. You can definitely feel the emotion between Anakin and Obi-Wan here. And then, of course, there's the classic no cringe moment, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's probably one of the worst moments in all of Star Wars, because it's just so cringy, and it doesn't fit in with the way Vader's character follows in the sequels at all. And especially the fact that you just hear James Earl Jones' voice, who is an incredible actor, by the way. Don't get me wrong on that, but to hear the difference between no and no, I am your father. Like, that's such a difference, where I am your father is so much better than no. Anyway, moving into the top 10, and again, we're seeing continual jumps in the quality here. At number 10 is episode 6. This is definitely my least favorite of the 3 original films. And that is purely because one of the Ewoks, because the Ewoks are another very stupid thing in the realm of Star Wars, and they're really not something that should have ever been made, because I feel like they were made for nothing more than to sell toys. By the way, excuse the noises I'm making. I have this cough urge, and I'm trying to keep it in or whatever. So this movie does some things right. So, like, the entire final act where Luke confronts the Emperor is honestly just very in between that and the space battles, honestly what I would describe as very, very enjoyable to watch. And like, it's just one of those things that, like, you get excited every time you see it. And especially because it has a lot of very iconic scenes, and the Emperor, played by Ian McDiarmid, is just such a cool character. So it really has a lot going for it there. And to be honest, the third act is really kind of what stands out in the film. Because I've never particularly been a fan of the Jabba the Hutt's palace sequence and the Jabba's barge scenes. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool, like with Luke's new Jedi skills, and definitely how he fights off the Rancor is freaking awesome. But the entirety of this scene just felt very cluttered to me, and I never really liked it that much. Though I do like the kind of intermittent parts with like Yoda dying. That's a nice callback to Empire Strikes Back, of course, and that whole scene is also very, very good, very, very well made. Um, yeah, that about sums it up. Otherwise, all the kind of middle scenes where they're all on Endor, that's the name of the moon, are just kind of like the scenes are kind of just there, really. Again, this movie is really brought down by the Ewoks, honestly. At number 9, we got the classic. We have Episode 4, A New Hope. This movie does so many good things. It introduces Darth Vader as a extremely menacing character, as a villain, and introduces Luke as this hero who doesn't know he's a hero yet, whatever. And Binary Sunset is one of my personal favorite scenes of all time, and definitely up there with the most iconic Star Wars moments for sure. The only reason, because this movie has no real problems to me, the only reason it's not higher on this list is because there are other Star Wars movies and TV shows that I consider better. Okay, sorry about that cut. I was just clearing up my nose a little bit. Anyway, at number 8 is the Rebels TV show. Now, there's kind of a lot to dive about here, so this is going to move on the longer portions, as it has to be with the TV shows part of it. This is one of 3 TV shows in this list. All the others are movies, for people who want to know. This TV show does also a lot of things right, but also quite a few things wrong, I would say. In the first couple seasons, it's really slow. Though one thing I do have to applaud about the first season is how they slowly build up Ezra and Kanan's relationship, which, by the way, not including villains here, Kanan is definitely my favorite character in the series. He definitely, and I know people might argue that Ezra gets the most development, but I've always felt that Ezra, was really kind of a brat character, especially in the the first season and a half, kind of. Zeb's just kind of funny. Sabine's. There's an arc about the Mandalorians that happens near the end of the show, and that's really when I feel like Sabine gets the most development. But otherwise, she's kind of there. She's kind of a cool character. Hera kind of has one arc that I've never been a big fan of. Otherwise, doesn't receive a lot of development, and I'm fine with that. Same with Chopper, though he eventually does build a very cute relationship with another character, with another droid named AP5, who gives me strong resemblance to the C-3PO R2-D2 relationship, which is really nice to see, and I think that's honestly what it was based off of, quite honestly. And so that's a really nice detail that I appreciate about Chopper and AP5's characters. So now we get to the villains. Now, the villains are possibly some of the best things about the show. Um, so for one thing, I'll start with the Inquisitors actually. The the idea of the Inquisitors at first I think was really awesome because the fact that like Imperial Admiral reports a Jedi to him, to the Grand Inquisitor and whatever, and that happened. That reveal at like the end of like the first episode, I think, was really cool, and it really set in motion a lot of possibilities for what they could do with the series. And eventually, the Grand Inquisitor like hunts the Jedi down, and it's really good stuff, honestly. And then he dies, which is kind of expected. As this thing where like it's just kind of this development of the Jedi character, and Ezra's have tried to the dark side, and then almost back to the light again. So, for what it's worth, I think he's a good character and he serves his purpose. However, when it gets to later in the series, there are more Inquisitors introduced, and then you see another one. It's like, okay, it's the same purpose, right? But then they introduce a second one, and I think the idea of having two of them at the exact same time was honestly actually not just a little, completely ridiculous, because now you have these two lightsaber wielding people who are trying to compete with each other, but also, even working together, can't catch the pair of Jedi. So, I don't know. I personally think that the Inquisitors get worse throughout the show, and especially because they refer to the first Inquisitor as the Grand Inquisitor. However, my thing is, if he was so powerful, then why did he die so early? I mean, maybe it was a plot device thing, but like, I don't know. And then like in the Darth Maul thing, they introduced a third guy, and honestly, one of the most ridiculous things about the show and about the Inquisitor in specific is the fact that they can use their lightsaber blades like a helicopter. Like, I think that crap is really dumb. And I think that just shows they were a little desperate on ideas for what the Inquisitors could do. Otherwise, the Inquisitors serve their purpose. They're pretty cool villains, especially the first Grand Inquisitor, I feel like. Tarkin and Vader also make appearances here. And these characters are also just really cool because they're classic Star Wars characters and they are ruthless. Like, they honestly fit the bill of being absolutely ruthless, and Tarkin's inclusion is great, and Vader's, and the way they portray Vader is also excellent to me. However, if we're talking about great villains that are great characters, then I mentioned this earlier because Agent Kallus. Now, he started out as a villain. In fact, he was kind of the devout person who was constantly trying to catch the rebels, and he had this like rivalry, let's call it, with Zeb, which kind of makes Zeb's character a little more interesting because there's a whole dynamic about the Lasat people, which is definitely one of my favorite episodes because it really gives Zeb a lot of backstory and a lot of character development, but also because there's this supposed belief that Kallus killed all of those people, or a good portion of them, along with the rest of the Imperials that one day, or whatever. And Zeb thinks he stole the weapon, and then there's another episode where they're trapped on this ice planet together, and it's kind of that classic type archetype where these two characters who are enemies end up stuck together. They have to work together to get out. That influences that, and basically that turns Calix into a good guy, but it makes him really think. But not before he does some amazingly deceptive acts in the Imperial Army. And watching the way, will his cover be blown? It's honestly very, very suspenseful. And I have to applaud that aspect of the show, honestly. And Admiral Yularen also makes an appearance, and he's really cool. He's kind of like this investigative general who's really good at interrogating, and he makes for a really cool addition for one episode. And of course, I've been stalling it till last because it's the best. Saving the best for last type thing. But Thrawn, if you really want to know why I love this character, then he was number 2 in my top 10 favorite, in the top 10 best movie and TV villains. So if you want to know why I love Thrawn so much, definitely go check out that video. But just everything that they did with this character is honestly one of the best things about the show. I'm not going to go that much further into it, but furthering on villains, Darth Maul actually makes an appearance on the Malachor 5 arc called Twilight of the Apprentice, and these episodes are easily some of the best because, for one thing, if you watch the Clone Wars, you would know Maul's hatred of Kenobi. But even if you didn't watch Clone Wars and you go into this show, you're probably pretty fine as long as you understand that Maul has always wanted revenge, and there's this grand deception where he's trying to corrupt Ezra, and it's such a cool arc to the story, and it creates these further episodes where he kind of has visions of Darth Maul, and there's this whole thing about holocrons and getting a vision and how Ezra needs to destroy the Sith and all that. And it's really awesome stuff. Excuse me. And it really just makes for such a compelling arc in the story, especially with the episode labeled Twin Sons, where Darth Maul, at the very end of the episode, Darth Maul travels Tatooine because Ezra's convinced that Obi-Wan is the key to defeating the Sith. And so Darth Maul wants revenge on Obi-Wan, so he goes there, and then Obi-Wan finally kills him one last time. And I really do think that just the way that the arc is set up and played out is truly excellent. And Darth Maul is, for that reason, one of my favorite characters in both the Clone Wars and Rebels. I'm going to stop it there. I don't want this video to be too long. But because I have 7 other things to talk about on this list, but I have I'm just gonna stop it there. I don't know if I'll make a full-fledged review or not. Maybe, I don't know. I won't get to every character today, but the point of the show is there are definitely some episodes that are filler, and definitely some episodes that contribute a lot to the story and are much better than other episodes. At number 7 is Rogue One. Now, when I saw this film, I did not expect it to be this good, but the action is amazing, and just the personality of the different characters is really good. Even though, and the one big minus of the film, the character development sucks. And being real here, it really does suck. But seeing Peter Cushing return as Tarkin and then James Earl Jones as Vader is really ominous. And Director Krennic is just a really good and funny villain. And Galen and Jyn's relationship is really powerful stuff throughout the movie, which proves that Mads Mikkelsen is a really good actor. Also, just it has amazing action, and it really does serve its purpose well as being this kind of prequel to A New Hope. And number 5 is The Force Awakens. Now, this movie introduces a lot of amazing. Or sorry. That number 6 is The Force Awakens. My bad. But this movie introduces a lot of really, really fantastic characters, and I know some people may say this is like a clone of A New Hope, but in my opinion, I really don't get the validity of that argument, because I love A New Hope. I think that movie is very, very good. So when you have a clone of that movie, but better, then you have a really good movie. I don't know. That's just my opinion on it, so I don't get why people complain about this movie that way. I think Rey's character is very, very interesting, and it's amazing seeing Han and Chewie back on the big screen, and Kylo Ren is truly an amazingly developed character. Of course, I talk about more of this in part 1 of my top 20 favorite movies. Same thing with number 5, which is The Last Jedi. Now, as I also stated in that video, I am a very controversial person when it comes to the sequels, because I am the extremely rare variant that seems to love all 3 movies. And honestly, this movie has a lot of my favorite scenes ever, and it has a lot of really fantastic scenes, and Andy Serkis does such a good job playing Snoke, and the character development is amazing. And Luke's arc, I think, is incredible. And number 4 is yet another classic, Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. This movie also does just so many things right. It has incredible scenes, amazing writing, great directing, fantastic acting, and great action for the time it was made. And number 3 is The Mandalorian. Now, the top 3 here was actually like the top 4 was the top 3 I'll say was extremely hard to decide, and this would have been number 2 had it not been for Rise of Skywalker. Spoilers is number 2. The Mandalorian is this show about this character named Din Djarin, who is a Mandalorian, and I love Mandalorians. They're one of my favorite races in Star Wars, and this movie, why do I keep saying that? This TV show really does do a fantastic job of just expanding on different things Star Wars, and the world building and the setting introduced in this is beyond like what I've seen in any TV show before. It is honestly some of the best like quality world building and setting that you can find in any TV show ever. Also, the action and the effects look amazing between both seasons of this show, and the way that it explores like the cultures of Mandalorians and Din Djarin's beliefs and how they're all changed when he discovers Baby Yoda, and their relationship together is really, really profound, and especially with the way that it pays off at the very, very end of the show, and Luke Skywalker's appearance is absolutely epic, and I love it. Talking about individual characters, I like Cara Dune. She's a nice character. Receives a lot of really cool action scenes. The same thing with Grief Karga. Like, this guy's a badass. He gets so many really cool scenes, especially in season 2. Moff Gideon, again, if you want to know more about why I love Moff Gideon as a villain, check out my top 10 best movie and TV villains video. That's where I go really in depth about why Moff Gideon is a really good villain. But he is truly one of the things that make the show. He's a very, very profound villain, and he's so enjoyable to watch on screen. And I cannot wait for season 3 of The Mandalorian, or Book of Boba Fett, whatever one's coming out. I don't really know. Anyway, my point is, this movie. Why do I keep saying that? Anyway, this TV show, and of course, the inclusion of Ahsoka and Bo-Katan in season 2 was also some really great additions. There's just so many good things about the show. Like, there's probably an innumerable amount of good things about this show. At number 2 is Rise of Skywalker. Now, I'm not going to go into this movie now, but if you really want to know my opinions on it, go check out part 2 of my favorite movies list. Or no, wait, part 3. My bad, part 3. Because, yeah, I stopped number 8 in part 2. No, wait, part 2. My bad. I'm misleading you all over the place. Part 2. Check out part 2. And then at number 1, and this is probably a choice that I think I'm the only person who goes with this, but I have to say the best Star Wars movie or TV show out of all of them is the Clone Wars TV show. Now, many people will say it's a good show, and like a very, very good show, and among the best in this list, but I don't know how many people would actually say it is the best besides me. So I will explain why, because this is a show that I have not gone in depth about yet, and I've wanted to for a while now. So this is going to be kind of interesting. This show, for one, it has amazing setting, and the time period in which it's set in, and kind of, I think credit to the first couple seasons, because like the first 2 seasons, I think they managed to keep it interesting while still exploring the wartime setting. And come time around season 2, around end of season 2 to season 3, is when we really kind of see some more character development start to begin. Not that we don't already see, it's just less so kind of throughout seasons 1 and 2 versus the rest of the seasons of the show, honestly. So starting with season 1, does a great job of introducing the clones and kind of their personalities. And also, I think the clone theme is honestly one of the coolest themes in all of Star Wars. I don't know how many people will agree with me on that, but it is. And then they slowly introduce the character of Ahsoka to the audience, kind of revealing more and more things about Ahsoka. And I think Ahsoka, ultimately, it turns out to be one of my favorite Jedi ever, and also one of my favorite Star Wars characters, because I think that the way that the TV show portrayed her, between like this and like the really good things that how she is portrayed in sorry, shut my phone for a second. About in Rebels and a little bit in The Mandalorian, not as much though. I think that they do a lot of really, really good things with Ahsoka's character in the show. Now, obviously, another pivotal character is, well, starting with Savage. Actually, starting all the way with the Savage Ventress, because she's betrayed by Count Dooku at a certain point, and then she makes Savage oppressed and get revenge, and Savage betrays both of them, which further develops his character as this monster type personality, which I absolutely love. And then he's told to find Darth Maul, and he does, and then it gets in this whole thing in seasons in season 4, and then in season 5, basically. It's kind of points throughout season 5, and a little bit in season 7. But there's different things with Darth Maul in season 7, which I'll get to later. But I think the Revenge arc is truly some of the absolute best episodes in the entire show. And it's just really, really cool. And then there's, of course, season 6 with the whole Yoda arc that I absolutely love. And then, of course, within that as well, Orders. Like, when you talk about just the development of the clones, which I'll get to in depth later in a second, is honestly one of the coolest episodes. Now, speaking of clones, I think that the way they develop the clones' morals and ideals, and kind of like the different generations of the clones, because it starts with the Domino Squad, and then you introduce, in the Rookies episode, you introduce Rex, but then you get Heavy Sacrifice as well. And then you come to the Umbaran arc, which is honestly also another one of the coolest arcs in the show. Because Krell is also such an interesting character. Just the way that you see and then, of course, you introduce characters like Jesse and Kix, and the Umbaran Hard Case and his sacrifice. Well, I kind of feel like you're modeling a bit after Heavy. And, of course, going back to season 2, you kind of have the Waxer and Boyle thing, and you also see a little bit of Waxer on Umbara, which is a nice callback to that character. Cody isn't really a clone that receives as much development, but Rex definitely is, because you see various characters like Jesse gets a load of character development in the show, and then you see characters like Top, Fives, Echo in particular, definitely one of the best clones, because he sacrificed the Citadel, and this whole arc about him kind of like not being as he once was, and he joined the Bad Batch or whatever. And by the way, I'm so hyped for the Bad Batch TV show. But and then like finally just ending with Rex, and it kind of carries over a little bit into Rebels. But I think just the way that they designed the clones just to last all the way was just so well made, and Fives is definitely my favorite clone in the show besides Rex's character. The animation looks incredible. Anakin and Obi-Wan also have pretty profound arcs at different areas in the actual story. And this show is just so good. It's so good, and it's the reason that it's like my third favorite TV show of all time, which, by the way, that's another list that's coming in the future. Anyway, if you stuck it all the way through this super long video, then thank you very much. As I'm recording this, we have just hit 39 minutes. So, if you made it all the way through this, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.